Welcome to The Passion Pod with your host, Chris Johnson. Thanks for joining us. Now sit back, relax, and enjoy the feature presentation.
Season 8, Episode 1.
Welcome back, friends. Today we travel to Los Angeles to get to know a very beautiful, talented, and real hustler of a woman. She's acted in TV shows, including 2.5 Men, movies such as Glass Jaw. She's been a Playboy model, done commercials for Dave & Buster's. She's a social media influencer, a writer, an interviewer. She does a lot of things, so we'll get into all that type of stuff. Like I said, she's quite a hustler. So welcome to the show, Caitlin O'Connor.
Hi, what's up?
Thank you for coming here. I'm glad we were able to make this work.
Oh, thanks for having me.
So in your best words, who are you and what are you passionate about?
Oh, just put me on the spot, just like that. Oh, goodness. What's up, you guys? Thanks for tuning in. I'm Caitlin O'Connor. I am a TV host, and I was born in Los Angeles and raised in Uniontown, Pennsylvania. I've always followed my passions one way or another. When I was little, I knew that my mom and dad were estranged, but I knew that my father worked in the entertainment business, and my mom had been a model before she had me, so I was always very curious about the entertainment industry itself, but I was very sheltered in Pennsylvania. So when I graduated high school, I moved back to Los Angeles to get to know my dad, and I went to UCLA, and from there my passions they sprung out of themselves. I guess you could say that. Just I loved watching TV, and I always wanted to be, like a newscaster, or a news anchor, or a TV host. Entertainment news was always something I loved listening to as a kid. So that's where my passions came from.
Okay, so for people to be able to look and see what you do, there's like a lot of places to try to find it. And you can Google Caitlin O'Connor, but you're going to see a lot of links, right? So how can people best follow you and see your work and get in contact if they were trying to reach out and say, hey, I listened to the episode, I loved it, or whatever?
There's so much out there about me. Some of it's true, some of it's not true. There's 2 Caitlin O'Connors out there spelled the same. But if you search for Caitlin O'Connor actress on Instagram, you'll find me.
Wonderful. Okay, so you grew up dancing first. That was the first thing you got into, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so how old were you when you grew up dancing, and what was it? Was it like ballet? Was it tap? Like, what was kind of the situation?
I started dance lessons here in LA. I don't remember the name of the school, but I was 4 or 5, and Kathy and Christina Schwarzenegger, Arnold Schwarzenegger's daughters, were in my class. I have no idea these things. People have told me, oh, you're so fancy because Arnold Schwarzenegger's daughters were in your class.
Is that because of your dad being in entertainment, that there was some kind of connection there or something, or how did that happen?
Yeah, there's some sort of unspoken, who knows, but that was my first venture into dancing.
Sure.
Ballet.
How old were you then when you moved to Pennsylvania?
I was 5 and a half, 6.
Okay, and then you continued doing ballet and stuff from there?
Yeah, ballet, jazz.
What was the first performance that you remember? Like, how old were you and what was it? You must have been doing dance competitions and all that stuff, right?
I did a few dance competitions. Well, when I moved to Pennsylvania, I noticed very quickly that I was going to be the nerd of the class.
Okay, why is that?
So people are just not the nicest in Uniontown. You have to sort of find your clique, but I never did. I never found it.
Was it because you were the new kid, even though that was like first grade or something? Or why do you think that was?
I think I was the new kid. I have no idea. I was just really shy, not cool.
Did you focus on school a lot? Were you like one of those nerdy kids that got straight A's and everybody was upset because they had worse grades?
I got straight A's for sure because I had no social life. So.
Okay, so you went to UCLA for writing or English or something?
I was an English major. Yes.
Okay, sorry.
Undergrad.
Gotcha. So have you always been into like literature?
The English language always came very naturally to me.
Okay.
Reading, I was reading at a college level when I was, 6 or 7.
Oh, wild. Okay, cool. So you wanted to do entertainment. We'll get to writing and stuff because, like I said, I really want to like talk a lot about how you've gone into like news things and writing columns and stuff, because modeling's one thing, but being able to kind of transition and work on different things and have different streams of revenue is kind of how you make things work. And I really like when people can kind of diversify themselves as people. Like I said, I own a skateboard shop, so everybody back home always thought I was like the person who did skateboard stuff. And then when I told them I had a podcast, they assumed it was about skateboarding. And I'm like, no, not really. And they're like, oh, well, it's about Eau Claire then, the city I'm from. I'm like, no, not really. They're surprised that I do anything else. And now I'm on the Parks and Waterways Commission for my city. So like I'm a city official and I do things that way and like volunteering. And then I just painted this mural. So people can be like a lot more than just the one thing. So anyway, so you're doing dance. You said you wanted to be on TV. What was it about entertainment? What specific zone were you kind of dreaming of going towards?
I didn't know. I was just so shy. I just had big dreams, basically.
Sure.
I couldn't speak in front of my class. I couldn't even speak in front of 2 or 3 people without, being drenched in sweat.
Yeah, I
wanting to run out the door.
I actually hated public speaking too, which is kind of funny. Like in college, I avoided it. I took interpersonal communications in college instead, which I thought was like the only useful subject I ever took.
That sounds like a good class.
It actually is, yeah. So like the one main thing that I learned from it, this is kind of a tangent, but really was different forms of communication, people will perceive things differently. So like if you're having a conversation with somebody about something sensitive, if you send a text as an example, you don't know how they read it, what tone they're reading it in, how they're spacing their words and all those types of things. You're sending it in the way that the way you're personally saying it. They're not necessarily going to read it that way.
Right. It actually depends on your own interpersonal maturity level, how you're reading that text message. So.
Oh, exactly. But not very many people are great at that.
No.
So anyways, that was basically what the course was. And I thought that was really helpful. But I avoided public speaking completely. And then after I opened my skateboard shop, I was 23 when I did that. I started throwing events all the time, skateboard contests and stuff. And so at the very first contest I threw, I didn't think about it ahead of time. And I was like, well, so who's going to be on the mic? There's like no one to do it. So I ended up having to do it, which felt really awkward.
MC your own event.
Yeah, I had to, right? So I ended up doing that quite a bit. And eventually now all of a sudden I'm on the radio and stuff and I'm like relatively comfortable speaking.
That's the best way to learn how to swim, right? You just get thrown in.
Yeah, I think so. So how did you learn how to get comfortable speaking in front of people? Because now you got to do it all the time.
It was gradual. It was over a really long period of time. I would say from 16 to 25. I think my first experience was beauty pageants, but I was really, really nervous. I would say I got better at public speaking or TV hosting when I took Marky Costello's class here in LA. She's a TV host,
Okay.
Former TV host, and now she teaches. She has a great reputation.
How long ago was that then?
That was 12 years ago.
Oh, okay. So
It's a long time ago.
Yeah, you moved out here directly after high school to go to college, right? That's
Yes.
how it works. So if you wanted to work in entertainment, what was really the reasoning then to go to college for like English? What was kind of the point? Why didn't you just immediately try to like find some kind of job lineup or something?
I definitely wanted to make my grandparents happy. Going to college and getting into UCLA is a big thing. So
Yeah.
I sort of applied on a whim as out of state. So I guess, I don't know, it just came about on its own.
How did that?
Getting into entertainment.
Yeah. So how did it work then? You moved out here because your dad was out here, right? So what was the transition like? Did he just like have an extra bedroom or something, or like how did it kind of work? Did you get in the dorms out there?
That's a good question. I was at my sorority for a little bit, Pi Phi, and my dad did have an extra bedroom, but he was retiring, and his last show he worked on was Pirates of the Caribbean. He was a Teamster.
Okay.
So he was headed to Reno, and I had to figure out my shit. So then I got my own apartment in Santa Monica, and I just started pursuing hobbies aside from class. So I did the UCLA Bearwear catalog was like my first job. I got approached on campus to do that.
Cool.
And then I started to think maybe I had some sort of opportunity here or there that I could pursue.
And those were modeling gigs, right? And you didn't actually, you weren't really seeking them out. They just kind of found you while you were still going to school?
A few of them came to me. My second opportunity was at Miss California. I entered Miss California and I got a job offer to audition actually first to work at Disneyland.
Oh, wow. Were you going to be one of the princesses or what?
Yeah.
Cool.
Specifically, I was Sleeping Beauty was what I auditioned for. But.
My sister, when she first moved out here, so my sister was valedictorian and she got her doctorate degree out here, and it was all like she got a scholarship paying for living expenses and all that. She was like super, super smart. And I always got decent grades, but she did really well. But anyways, when she first moved out here, she dated one of the Disney princes.
Oh, which prince?
I think it was, which I can't remember which one. I just remember at the time anyway, she came back for like Thanksgiving or whatever. We were all making fun of like, oh my God, I can't believe this is what you're doing right now.
So funny.
So we never ended up meeting him because she didn't end up marrying him. She married somebody else, which I just mentioned to you. Tom Gray is his name. He was a guest on my show back in like season 2. This is season 8. So like it's been a little while. But he's a writer and he works in different movies and stuff. So
What's up, Tom?
Tom is seriously the man. I can't wait to see this movie. Did you finish college? Did you just go for a couple of years and then you
I was on the 7-year plan.
Okay, what does that mean? You just dropped into like you were doing 12 credits and then 10 and then 8 and then 6?
Oh, yeah, slowly but surely. My favorite was finishing my theater minor. I feel like I learned a lot. And that, of course, came with public speaking classes that I had to do. So
sure. And so you were
just blossomed from itself.
Yeah. Were you working pretty much full time then by the time you were 22? Like
I
out
was
here?
off and on, but yeah, working full time as a model. Dream Girl International had me do their Halloween catalog.
Oh, sure.
And that sort of gave me my first few checks. And then I bought a classic car, an old Lincoln I saw outside my apartment building.
Cool. So how did that transition then into getting other types of positions? How long was it before you got the like writing job? Because you did that for quite a while, right? For Maxim, you were doing, what was the article you had? You had a consistent month-to-month one, right?
I started doing modeling for Maxim was their hometown hotties. So I was voted online to enter the competition, and then they had me write articles for them.
Sure. How old were you at that point? And how long did you do that
This is honestly 10 years ago. I have to sit and think everything that I did for Maxim, but my main job for them was as their TV host.
Oh, cool.
As their red carpet interviewer for, every celebrity event that they had, Indy 500, Super Bowl. And I actually was just flown to Indy 500 solely to just go to the party. And their TV host, whom they had hired, slept through her flight. So somebody from production said, Caitlin, I know that you do public speaking. I know that you're an actress. Can you do this? And I'm like, of course, this is my dream job, just getting handed to me. And they didn't hire her again after I had that first job, but that was in 2014.
Sure. Well, I tell people that quite a bit, that like you can ask for favors and stuff, and sometimes that works out. But really, the best thing to do is just kind of make it known what you're trying to do and surround yourself by the right people and put yourself in a position where it's like, if people want to help you, they will. Those opportunities, if you're in the right position and you're knowingly putting yourself in that position, eventually opportunities pop up. It's just kind of a matter of time.
That's so true. That's the best advice you can give somebody, is just being out and about in the crowd that you want to be in, and then those jobs are going to flow to you because it's based on your passions, right?
Yeah.
I always had a passion watching The Girls Next Door on TV. I loved that show. And when I first moved back to LA, I got approached at a gas station by Crystal Hefner. I didn't know she was going to marry Hef, but she asked me to the Playboy Mansion. And then I became the tour guide there. And I happened to be fighting with my boyfriend on the phone at a gas station. And your passions will find their way to you, no matter what.
Yeah.
You could be sitting at a gas station, with your hair not combed, your face not washed, but somebody will find you the right place at the right time.
Yeah, I think so. And if you genuinely, like I said, if you have it out there, like, hey, I'm really trying to do this, people can pick up on that. If you're like honest and you're genuine and you're trying to do something, people want to help more often than you would expect.
As long as you're honing your skills, and then when you get the first opportunity, you have to prove your worth.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and even if you make mistakes, honestly, if it's like clear that you're doing your absolute best work in it and you're really trying, like I said, I think people can pick up on that because there's a lot of this like facade going around with people. So when people see someone that's like pretty obviously genuine, they want to be around that person,
True.
Who was the first person that you interviewed that you got kind of like fangirled out on? Because I've met some people where I'm like, oh my God, you know what I mean? Like I had the first time I had a pro skateboarder on the show, which was actually last season. So I'd done a lot of them. And pro skateboarders aren't actually like famous, but to me, it's like my industry. So they're like, oh,
Yeah.
I was definitely
in their community, they're super famous.
That's what I mean. Yeah. So I met him, and I met him out in Venice. His name's Blake Johnson. Went to his mom's apartment and sat down and interviewed him. And the whole time I was just like, I followed your career your whole life. Like, oh my God. Who's the first person you interviewed that you were kind of like fanned out by?
Oh gosh, I've had a few. and when I'm doing my job, it's hard to really process who's in front of me, and that's part of my job is to not let that be seen.
Right.
But Mel B from the Spice Girls,
Sick. So
Brandon Boyd of Incubus, I didn't interview him, but he invited me to audition for the lead in his music video a long time ago.
did you perform in a lot of music videos? I suppose
I
because with the
danced
dance.
in a few.
Sure.
Yeah.
Cool. Because I had a couple different dancers recently. I don't know if you know Courtney Sanderson or Michaela Murphy, but they both do like music videos and stuff these days. They're
I
huge
recognize
TikTok
their
girls.
names. Maybe.
Yeah, they're big. Like, I mean, Michaela Dancer's her handle. She's like 13 million or something on TikTok. She's pretty big in that zone, but she does a lot of music videos and stuff these days. But anyways, so you started doing red carpet events. How did you kind of figure out how to do interviews? Because that wasn't part of like your schooling. Like, obviously you did some public speaking. Had you ever done any interviews before that day that they just kind of threw you in?
Before Maxim hired me,
Yeah.
a few and far between. I think I did like a YouTube show called The Social Rules where I interviewed man on the street style, sort of like Conan O'Brien
Oh, cool.
style. But no, I just was thrown into it. And you have to either, it's sort of like one of those jobs, you either do really well at it or you don't. And it sort of just has to come naturally to you. But you can pick up on skills. Like when I went to Marky Costello's hosting school, there's certain things like you always remember, like the logo on your microphone always has to be turned toward camera. There's little things that you have while somebody is speaking to you who you're interviewing. You have to remember all these little things like turn your body to camera or remembering what they're saying and answering a question based on what they're saying. It's a lot of like little intricacies that you have to just get used to.
Sure.
So, and remembering to breathe, which I don't, as you could tell.
Then all of a sudden you're really short of breath the whole time. Were there any interviews that, like, looking back, you kind of stumbled over pretty hard that you struggled with?
That's the wonderful thing about editing. Because you can just edit all that out. I just try to just get the most out of whoever is in front of me. It doesn't matter what I'm saying. Just getting them to speak is sometimes hard. People don't really want to keep talking, especially when you're at a big event. You want to just move on.
Yeah.
Move into the party, go do your performance or, whatever you're there for.
Yeah. Well, I've never had to try to catch people in the way that you did, where you're almost like soliciting in a way of like, please give me a few minutes of time. You know what I mean? For me, it's like people agree to sit down for, a certain amount of time. And if they didn't want to do it, they wouldn't do it.
That's
Right.
the great thing about working for Maxim, though. They're at a Maxim party. You have the Maxim microphone. They
Sure.
really don't want to pass you up. They
Yeah.
might just want to keep the interview short.
Sure. So yeah, so for me, I did sales for a long time. So I think that's what kind of helped me in it, like the interpersonal communications. I've done sales since I was 16, and like I said, I'm 31. So I've been talking to people for a long time, and I did like high-end jewelry and stuff too. So I talked to dudes that were like coming in, like, I have no idea what I'm doing. I'm crazy uncomfortable, and my girlfriend's here, and like I kind of got used to talking to all kinds of different people. And then I worked for Verizon, so I talked to pissed off people and whatever.
Oh,
And
gosh.
kind of like figured out how to like get that icebreaker going. Going back into the interview questions, I wrote up questions for this interview quite a while ago. But I was thinking about it, and you mentioned at one point in some interview, odd questions that people ask, right? What's the most like unique question somebody's ever asked you in an interview?
Strange questions I've asked people or people who
I want to
that
hear
have
one of
asked
each.
me.
What's the strangest you've asked, and what's the strangest somebody's asked you?
Oh, goodness. What do people ask me? People ask me all sorts of things in interviews. Nothing really in person, but I've gotten a few, strange interviews sent to my email inbox. But, I mean, funny ones, boxers or briefs. Like, I don't wear either. So that's a strange
Was that more meant as like
question.
what your preference is for somebody else to wear?
Possibly, but it wasn't outlined at all. It was just question, boxers or briefs.
That makes me think of Cameron Diaz when she was wearing, you know what I'm talking about?
Yes.
Yeah, that's the only thing that makes me think of.
I love Cameron Diaz. I just watched her in The Strangest Thing, set in San Francisco. Good movie.
The Strangest Thing? Mm-hmm. I don't know that
Or The
one.
Sweetest Thing.
The Sweetest
Was it
Thing.
The
Yeah,
Sweetest
yeah.
Thing?
It's like
The
the
Sweetest
anniversary
Thing.
or something of that, right?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. I remember that popping
Good
up.
movie.
What's the strangest one you've asked?
I can't think of a good one, but I know that my worst interview was Tiesto, Indy 500 in 2016. I just couldn't get any of my questions out, and there's a language barrier. So he just started to say random things. It worked out perfectly. I would say that's my worst interview that I've done. And then also G-Eazy walked up, and he was late to the Maxim party, and I didn't know who he was, which is bad. It was before he got famous, so I was just sort of like, look at this late guy in his leather jacket, and he's so tall. I was just like asking him,
Sure.
rebuffing him in a little bit of a way.
So as I'm trying to like figure out the trajectory here, right? So you moved out here, you went to college, and then you started doing modeling things as well as like doing some dancing stuff. You worked for Maxim for a long time and you started writing. Eventually, at some point, you got into like TV hosting and a whole bunch of other things. Can you like give me a summary, anyways, of like where it went from like the Maxim days till now of generally what you've been doing?
I've always worked on 3 trajectories, really.
Okay.
Production side, because it's in my family. TV hosting.
Yeah.
As the jobs come to me, I take them. And acting, modeling. So I really just audition for everything that I can, and I stay really busy. The biggest part, the best part of my career has been hiring a publicist to help me and maintaining that, monthly outgoing income to my publicist to help me with my career. That's, the best advice I give to everybody who asks me, how do I get started? What can I do? It's to be out and about, be at events, getting your name out there and doing press for what you're doing.
Yeah, my brother-in-law actually said the same thing. So he had a big YouTube channel for a while. It was called Player Piano. He's done a lot of things, right? Entertainment, you kind of just do a lot of things.
You just do everything.
Yeah. So he had a YouTube channel for a while where like it was production stuff. So he would make these grand pianos that looked like the Millennium Falcon or looked like a Nintendo controller or whatever, some kind of random nerddom. And his business partner was this classically trained pianist from Russia. And she would take, like the Nintendo theme song or something, but then make like a classical version of it and like play the whole thing. But that YouTube channel went from nothing to 250,000 followers like fast. And he said that was the biggest part of it, really, was just getting a publicist so that way people know about it. Because I'm kind of been in this like little space here where my show where I live, like pretty much everyone knows, I think, about it where I live. But trying to get my name out in LA, kind of despite who I have on the show, is kind of tough because I don't live here. So I can't go to events constantly and shake people's hands and get in front of people. So whenever I'm here, I'm like trying to overload my schedule and like do a whole bunch of things. But it's hard without having a publicist, I think, to get in the right, articles and get in front of the right people. There's a reason these people do this stuff like completely for a living, right?
There's a reason why there's a stylist when you go to a red carpet. Like there's so many jobs out there and they need to be filled, but number one, publicist is your best friend. Even a PR assistant, if you don't have the funds to start, spending a bunch of money, somebody who's working their way up can help you a lot.
So acting. What was the first acting thing you did? I mean, you must have been like an extra in something at some point and then kind of worked your way up, right? Is that kind of how it went?
I've always done a lot of background, and I like being on set, so I don't mind working background on a big production. I still to this day.
Sure.
But the first acting job I got was starring in Simple Plan's astronaut video. And then it was Key and Peele.
Key and Peele?
Yeah.
Oh my God. Have you done much in comedy before?
I've taken comedy classes. I've done comedy YouTube, but
that's awesome. And
I just do whatever people will hire me for. So
sure. What were all the what was the biggest acting? Like as far as like all the things that you've done, all the characters you played or whatever, which was like the biggest one, the most memorable one that you had?
I think, people listening out there, the industry is really, really tough. And for every audition you go out on, there's 50 girls who look just like you with the same background. And it just basically comes down to you get hired when you get hired and you can't give up. So as many little roles as I've had, I've gone out on 10,000 auditions. So you just have to take what you can get.
Yeah.
So I never really say no to anything.
Sure.
And people would say, you should have said no to this, that. I was just waiting on an opportunity. And when they come to my plate, I say, yes, I want to get to work. I want to make money. Plus, I don't want to be homeless. So I've said yes to things that I look back and I'm like, oh, maybe I shouldn't have said yes to that. But sorry, that was a tangent. What did you ask me?
I asked which was your most memorable one that you've had to you, not necessarily to everybody else, but which one stuck out to you that you really enjoyed?
Recently I did Days of Our Lives, and I got to the first episode they had me in as the body double for Belle, and then I got to say a few lines confusing her husband that I was her. So that comes out at Christmas. So I'm super excited about that. And then 2.5 Men, everybody watches that show. So doing their series finale was a big job for me. And I still get little checks from it. So if anybody out there doesn't know it, when you're an actress and you're in SAG, when you're on a production that has residuals, your opportunity to make checks for like the rest of your life.
Yeah.
They send you money. So
Sure. Yeah. I interviewed Lamorne Morris. Are you familiar with him?
No.
He played Winston on New Girl. Have you seen New Girl?
I love New Girl.
Yeah. Winston, do you know which character that is?
Nope.
The black guy, right? The really hilarious one. He's in all the Budweiser or Miller Lite commercials and stuff. Well, anyways, now he has his own show called Woke. It's hilarious. They just finished season 2 of Woke. They had it on when I was flying back from Amsterdam, they actually had it on the Delta plane. Anyways, that actor,
I've seen it.
He's hilarious, but he's from Chicago, and then he kind of blew up out in New York, and he had a whole gig with BET. He was doing a bunch of stuff with them, and then he moved out here and was straight up homeless for a while, and like lost everything. So it actually is like pretty quick, right? That you can go from something to nothing out here because of how cutthroat it is.
Oh, for sure.
How was working with Charlie Sheen? Was that like kind of wild?
It was Ashton Kutcher.
Ashton Kutcher at that point? Oh,
yeah,
I guess
the
I'm not
series
that.
finale, the last season.
Oh, I was working with him then.
He was nice. Mila Kunis was on set. She's one of my girl crushes, and their baby was also on set.
Yeah, when I was a kid, she was definitely a huge crush of mine.
She's
that
gorgeous.
70s show is like based in Wisconsin. So
yeah, that's right.
Yeah. You start doing more social media stuff, and being ahead of the curve with that kind of helps, I think, right? Because whatever is like the new feature on Instagram, if you hop on and you start doing that, it shows you on more things, right? So whenever there's like a new social media, and I know the last one was like Clubhouse, everyone was trying to do that, and it doesn't seem to be working in my opinion, but I'm also in the middle of nowhere, Wisconsin, so I don't really have a good idea. Can you tell me about Arsenic TV, like what you were doing for them? And then I know they did a whole Snapchat thing. Can you kind of tell me about that time frame?
Yes. I was one of Arsenic's first models way back in the day. I think they started in 2013. It was run by a woman named Amanda. Arsenic is still around. They are a media platform similar to MTV. They wanted to be like a Maxim meets MTV. They had lots of music personalities coming to the house. They used their LA house, the mansion, as a place to find more funding for their company and also to have crazy parties and bring sponsored events. And it was an awesome company to work for. And they grew my social media over the years. Working for Arsenic helped me a lot.
And you were kind of at the forefront, right, with the Snapchat stuff on that.
Yeah, I was one of their lead TV hosts for the channel.
Sure. How did you even know how to take advantage of that as it was growing? Because I know when new things, I was talking to Andrew Cannon a while back. He was a past guest. He's the team manager he's brand manager for Santa Cruz Skateboards, which everyone knows of Santa Cruz, right? And I was talking to him once about how social media has been a big challenge for professional skateboarders in the industry and things evolving. And he flipped it on me and he was like, well, actually, if you look at it as an opportunity instead, it's a new thing that nobody's an expert on yet. So if you make yourself one, you're way ahead. So how did that kind of play in your own career? Were you kind of trying to stay ahead on those trends, and did that kind of help you?
I love shifting your perspective like that. That's such an awesome thing to do when you can do it from negative to positive. But for myself, I was so shy in high school that I started adding people on MySpace and Facebook and asking certain questions, if I see, and that's how I have my boyfriend right now, is because of Facebook. I was too scared to say anything to him on set. We were working on a production and he was in the art department. And so after I was done working that day, I looked him up on the call sheet and I added him on Facebook and I asked him out, which he said no.
Oh, no.
But yeah, I've always just been too shy face to face. So
Sure.
I've always had to use social media or just generally the laptop to get in touch with people. And I think my passion from using social media, that's how it grew. That's how it all grew for me.
Yeah, I mean, it goes back to what we were talking about with the interpersonal communications, right? Some people are more comfortable in certain ways, and if you're more comfortable on a laptop, which realistically, that's kind of the more effective platform at this point, right? Is the internet, because people live
True.
all over the world and people don't talk in person nearly as much, which it's like pretty cool when you finally actually do spend time one-on-one with people, but it doesn't happen nearly as much as I think, we all wish it would.
Instagram's such a cool platform because I've been able to travel all over the world just based on people commenting on my pictures. Like somebody who owned a house in Costa Rica just said, hey, you should come to Costa Rica. It would be awesome to meet you. And I actually went to Costa Rica.
Yeah.
And I stayed at his property. So it's like it opens up social media opens up the whole world to you if you know how to use it properly.
Yeah. No, I mean, it has for me. I've gotten quite a few interviews from just like DMing random people, or really like, I'll meet one person and then somebody they know that's on social media, they start a little 3-way group chat or something. I think that's how I know you, is because of our
Yes.
mutual friend, Max, Visual Dirt on
Photographer.
Instagram. Yeah. So he connected us through Instagram, and then here we are, almost a year later, like hanging out here, which is fantastic. Okay. So getting back to it, where are you trying to headed now? Like, how would you like to be spending your time moving forward in the next, say, 3 months, 6 months, whatever? I'm assuming you're still going to do TV host stuff, some social media stuff. What would you really like to do?
Of course. Well, as time goes on, I just have to focus on my two main passions, which is TV hosting and film production. And I just wrapped up my 5th feature film. It's called Val, the movie, and it's out on iTunes. It's awesome. It's starring Eric Griffin, and my producing partner, Victoria Fratz, does an amazing job. Her husband, Aaron Fradkin, was the director. So look up Val, the movie. It's spooky season. It's a horror movie. What else have I produced? There's so many. What else? Glassjaw. It's a boxing movie. And you can find that at Walmart. So I'm sure there's some people out there who like to have hard copy DVDs. They're still around.
What kind of role have you done in the production side of it? Like what is, I think a lot of people don't really understand what a producer is, right? So what kind of role have you had with some of those?
Producers basically facilitate things like actors' contracts and getting locations. They do everything, and it depends on what kind of producer you are. Associate producer can just maybe put money in. An executive producer is very hands-on with everything day to day. Basically, they handle everything.
Sure. What are you hoping to do with producing? Like, do you want to do a huge feature film, such as like a Star Wars type thing? Is that kind of the goal?
For sure. Whatever comes my way. Again, the industry is so difficult to get anything done. I just appreciate everything that comes my way. But ultimately, yes.
So one day you're going to direct, produce, act, do the entire thing for a movie that wins an Oscar.
Oh, no acting or directing for me. I just like to be on set. I like handling all the problems and talking to people.
Sure. Okay, so I ask this on every episode. Can you please share with me an experience that you're really grateful for, one like a specific one, but only happened because you chose to pursue your passions for, well, all this stuff, entertainment, any of them. So any specific story.
There's a few that stick out in my mind that I've already touched on in the interview. It's sitting at that gas station and having Crystal Harris come up to me and start talking to me. It's only through your passions and what you really love that things succeed for you.
Yeah.
And then saying yes to flying to Indy 500, I think it was in 2014 for Maxim. And then she happened to lose her track of time and then missed her flight, and I got to host that specific event.
Sure.
So those things sort of led me in big directions. Those were the forks in the road in my life. So I remember those two instances very specifically. Like, manifesting is real, and what you put, a man becomes what he thinks about. So what you think about and where your passions are, that's where things will lead you.
Yeah, that's the funny part, right? Is it would never be something that you really anticipated it to be. It's just the fact that you were trying to do those things, then all of a sudden something popped up.
It's
right?
a combination of right time, right place, having the skill set, and just following what you truly love. And I think Joe Rogan always says that. He just followed his passions, comedy, podcasting, talking to people, having his friends, and it all just led him down those
Yeah.
those roads.
Yeah, and now he's a superstar and could talk to anybody.
Yeah.
He really should be the mediator for presidential debates, in my opinion. He would be fantastic at that. I would love it, and I think everybody else would love that too.
We should start that petition.
We should start that petition with maybe through all your different social media outlets. All of a sudden, we could get a whole bunch of signatures, and we could be the catalyst for that. That would be incredible.
I'm down.
What about mistakes? I think those are the quickest way that people learn from things, and hopefully people can listen to this show, can hear from other people's stories, and then not, avoid those types of mistakes. What's a story about a mistake that you made that taught you something valuable that somebody listening might be able to benefit from?
I've made so many mistakes in my career. Nobody ever told me growing up that, like, if you want to be a sexy model, people will put you in boxes, right? So even if you're an intellectual and you want to pose for a Maxim, people will try to put you in boxes and always make you the Maxim model. But what if you want to move out of those boxes? It's very difficult to get people to understand you and what your talents are when there's so many people in a big city. They just move on to the next guy. So I think that I should have, in hindsight, which is always 2020, right? I should have just taken more time with every decision, but I'm always just so grateful for everything that comes my way. So it's just difficult, and I wear all my mistakes on the internet, so y'all can enjoy all of them.
Yeah. Well, I mean, at the same time, everything's a stepping stone, right? Even if you didn't expect it to be. Like, I'm sure you made relationships through other random jobs that ended up benefiting you somewhere else that you didn't really expect it to be. That's kind of how it works, right? That happens to me all the time.
True. Yes.
So moving forward, how can people best support anything you're trying to do? They listen to this episode. Should they just go follow on the social medias? Are there any certain outlets they should go? Should they go buy Glassjaw the movie and then shout you out on the internet? Like, what's the best way people can support you?
The best way is to send me a DM so my Instagram followers go up. But I'd love to hear from you. I answer all my DMs, and I sell art from my house with my partner, Steven. So if you'd like a custom piece of art, it's at sduncanart.com.
Yeah, the dollar bills and stuff that I saw in there, right?
Yes.
They're like kind of cartoon ones. Do you do the
Yes.
art? Does he do them? Do you both do them?
I sell the art. He makes the art.
You're an art broker.
I'm an art dealer chic over here.
That's awesome. Well, then I do have to show you my mural because it's
I'd
actually
love
along
to.
the same kind of style of art.
Oh,
So I
please
think you'd
show
end up
me.
appreciating it.
Pop art. I'd love to see.
Yeah.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of The Passion Pod. We hope you enjoyed it as much as we did. We'll see you soon.